Meeting of the Madera City Council to order. Alicia, can you call the roll, please?
Mayor Garcia is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Mejia.
Here.
Councilmember Gallegos.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Montes.
In the house, just coming in.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Villegas.
I'm here.
Thank you, Alicia. We will now have the invocation led by Councilwoman Anita Evans.
Please bow your heads. Precious Lord, take my hand. Lead me on. Let me stand. Father God, we come to you tonight saying thank you for blessing each and every one of us to enter this room. Blessing this city, Father God, the turmoil that's going on throughout the world. We need peace in the city of Madera. Father God, we ask that you touch this council, bless them and bless all those that are in the room. Continue to watch over us and keep us, Father, giving us the leadership and the guidance that we need so desperately, allowing the words that come from our mouths to be your words, Father, and not ours. Continue to watch over us and keep us, Father, and we thank you. We give you all the honor, the glory, and the praise. In your Son's precious name, Christ Jesus, amen.
Excellent. Will now be led by Councilman Villegas.
Ready? I place allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now move on to the approval of the agenda. I will now ask if there are any changes to the agenda. Council members, do you have any comments or changes to the agenda?
Mayor Pro Tem, move to approve the agenda as presented. I'll
Second. Okay, Councilmember Montes moves to approve the agenda, seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We will now move on to public comment. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked but are not required to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the mayor has the option of asking the speaker to hold a comment until that item is called. Comments on items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusions should be drawn if the council does not respond to public comment at this time. And we have one public comment.
Yes, DJ Becker, the Madera News. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Here we are again with the same issues of widespread blight, trash, and neglect. And I believe we have some photos coming, except this is worse than 5 years ago. Mature trees and shrubs are dying everywhere for lack of water. Weeds and trash are almost everywhere downtown. Everyone has a reason or excuse why they can't make changes. It's always someone else's jurisdiction or problem. It's exhausting and beyond frustrating. The downtown business owners have given up. Many good employees have left because they look around and they don't want to be here. It's a downward spiral. We also need to update our ordinances, give employees the tools and support they need to do their jobs, especially the one for littering. Like speed enforcement, behavior doesn't change without deterrence. Create civic pride. Everyone deserves a clean, safe neighborhood. We get what we tolerate, and this is no different. Walking down Yosemite is just depressing. Nobody wants to invest in a blighted area. We get what we tolerate. All the existing nice bench planters put in place by Jim Talbert are full of dry dirt, dead plants, and trash. I believe we have some pictures of that. Jim would really be heartbroken now to see the condition and the decay. Remember the graffiti episode and how terrible that was? How Madera came together with residents and tackled the graffiti? Made a huge difference by removing it and not tolerating it. We did that. Then there was the crow roosting problem. We tackled that. I believe Mayor Santos attempted to do this downtown revitalization some time back, but apparently there was no city council consensus or any cooperation at all. Please stop shifting the responsibility. It's Madera's downtown. The merchants and the business owners need the city's support and assistance. Power washing, planting shrubs, and basic cleanup are not expensive and should be the city's responsibility to set the example. Merced just somehow managed it. It's going to take some new effort and leadership by the city administration and the city council to do this now. Please put your grudges aside and roll up your sleeves and work together. Enough is enough. If we can't put Madera first, the voters will likely find someone who will. Remember the change in 2018? These existing methods are clearly not working, and our community deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment?
We have no one on Zoom, Mayor Pro Tem. And no written public comment.
Thank you, Alicia. We will now move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is presentations. First, we have a recognition of Dutch Bros for the donation to the City of Madera Youth Sports Programs. And we have Dutch Bros managers Manny and Ada, who will be here to accept the recognition. Can you please step up? And also we have Adam with the check. We have this certificate of recognition that is presented to Dutch Bros on behalf of the Madera City Council. Thank you for the fundraising event that helped raise $4,763 toward the city's youth program. Thank you. Would you like to say? Hi.
Just want to say I am not from the city of Madera, and I've been part of the Central Valley my whole life, and just seeing how the difference between 30 minutes from Merced to here, and just like the environment that we have and have provided around like with the youth is super amazing here. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate you guys like giving into that, because at the end of the day, the building blocks start from the bottom up. And then if we create a strong foundation, the people around us, then like the sky's only the limit. So thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to help you guys out too.
My name is Adam Romero. I'm the recreation coordinator for the city of Madera, and I want to thank Dutch Bros for coming in and giving us opportunity to fundraise. This money is going to be used for our youth sports equipment. So it's going to help replenish any equipment that's needed for our youth baseball programs, flag football, soccer, special needs programs, and help us launch our indoor futsal league we're going to have coming up this November. So again, thank you again, Dutch Bros. And if anybody, it's also Madera community is the ones who help fundraise this. Every drink that was sold in a 24-hour span was portion of that was donated in behalf of Dutch Bros to the city of Madera. So it was a community effort, coming in. If no one tried Dutch Bros, definitely go check it out. Don't be discouraged by their long lines. They get you in and out pretty quick. So yeah, for sure. Again, thank you. Council, thank you.
Go ahead.
Better?
A coffee.
Thank you, Dutch Bros. And now we have a recognition of Rohi Sakaraya for the contribution to Madera's 4th of July fireworks spectacular show. And that presentation will be done by Councilmember Rodriguez.
Well, thank you. I have the honor of providing this certificate of recognition to a young man that resides in the city of Madera and also has done quite a bit. Not a lot of people know about Rohi Sakaraya. So let me just say a little bit. Aside from being a co-president and the president of the Greater Madera Kiwanis, Rohi has dedicated a lot of his time to support the youth. And with the robotics, he's become the advisor for the high school. He's also been part of the young teens that are coming up in the service clubs and advising them. Has been very part of the Knights of Columbus. So he's got a lot of history in giving back to the community, and organizing is one of them. He's helped with the Harvest Festival here that we have as well, alongside Father Shaji. But in this case, maybe about 2 years ago, I sat down with Rohi and he had asked, "Hey, Jose, when are we going to do the fireworks?" And this is because of budget cuts, pandemic, and what have you. Fireworks were only taking place. We've always had a tradition of having these fireworks. From my understanding, it was done at Town and Country. Then it was done at the fairgrounds, and then again at the golf course. And one of the things that was very consistent is that we try to keep a golf course tournament. Again, I can talk about that later on with Adam, but the fireworks preceded that. But over the years, we didn't see that happen. And when Rohi came to me, he said, "Hey, Jose, what if we try to do this from a grassroots effort? Why don't we try to do it through a community base?" And sure enough, the Greater Madera Kiwanis stepped up. And this man here was actually behind the whole thing. All I did was coordinated. I brought some important people to the room. They all believed in the idea. We went forward, we launched it, we gathered money. And before you know it, we had a 4th of July spectacular underway. Unfortunately, the vendor was non-responsive. Obviously, something with the licensing. Not only did he burn the city of Madera, but also other cities and other events that were planned. So that kind of, gave a little bit of the morale that kind of fell down. But overall, Rohi was the only one that kept his head up high and said, "We're still going to do this, and we're still going to move through, despite the funding, despite the fundraising." This gentleman here was able to move this event forward. And if any of you attended the 4th of July fireworks event, it was quite the bang. Aside from the boxing show that he was able to put together and all the other vendors that came through, the 4th of July spectacular was a great hit. And I hope that we can continue this and we have more of the support from our colleagues here at the City Council. But with that, let me go ahead and just read off the recognition. I think that's what we're all waiting for. So this is the certificate of recognition presented to Rohi Sakaraya from the Greater Madera Kiwanis Club, with great appreciation and recognition of your service and contribution to the 4th of July of 2023 fireworks spectacular. So from and on behalf of the City of Madera City Council, we present this certificate of recognition. And if you'd like to add some words there, please do.
Again, like Jose said, I do appreciate the community support. We had some hurdles, obviously, going into this. I knew it was going to be bigger than just our club. It was a city effort. I'm very thankful for the service clubs that came together, like Rotary and Lions, that helped step up. They understood that it's community first. And like Jose said, that's how I was raised. That's what I believe. I live here. This is my town. I want it to be the best place ever. And like Jose said, when it wasn't happening, I knew it was a tradition of Madera, and I felt that we needed to bring it back. I'm very thankful for the supporters that we had. Obviously, fireworks are very expensive. That was one thing you learned real quick. And, it was nice to see that people stood behind us financially, as well as the amount of people that came out and volunteered their time that day to make it a success. And it sounds like everybody loved it. It was a great event, and we look forward to doing it again next year. Thank you.
I will add that although we have a Evening Lions member here, that they too participated as well alongside many other organizations that we may have missed. But know that some of the donors that were part of that as well are listed in the website. Obviously, working with the city of Madera, the county, they all participated to make this happen. So I really want to take that time. Again, thank you, Rohi. Now I think we can take a picture up there and recognize you as we should. Thank you. Where's the check? We don't have the picture. I don't care. Where's the check?
And we just need to mention also, Roy is one of our commissioners in the city of Madera.
That's among one of the many things and one of the hats that he wears. I don't want to let this moment go without even expressing the thanks and support of the Madera PD, because they were out there and they were really making it safe for us. Thank you so much for that as well.
I too would like to express my gratitude, having been a part of this or participated as a child as far as like attending. It was great to see it come back. It was the first time my husband saw it, and we were very excited to be there. There was so much for everyone to do. You had vendors, you had Little Train for Kids, you had boxing. There was just so much, and congratulations on a very successful event.
One more time. One more time.
We will now move on. We will be recognizing Hilda, our city attorney. And Arnoldo, do you mind doing this presentation?
So as the council and the community is aware, Hilda joined us about 4 years ago. Initially, the city was in dire need of an attorney, and the council gave me a long rope. They trusted me a lot and said, go find an attorney. And I found Hilda, and we're extremely fortunate. And Hilda since then became the city's full-time attorney. She assisted the city in one of the most turbulent times, I'm not going to say in the city's history, but I know at the time we needed someone with that was very well experienced, that had a good understanding of public policy, and who understood the laws and the regulations to help guide the city, or specifically provide guidance to the city council at the time that it truly was desperately needed. Since then, Hilda has been truly the city's rock when it comes on a lot of issues. Legal, just simply kicking ideas around. We've, going through COVID, the city experienced a lot, and Hilda has always been there. So Hilda, I'm going to just very sincerely thank you. I cannot have done this without you. You've helped me tremendously. And I know that I speak on behalf of city staff and on behalf of city council. So we do have a plaque for you. And it states, thank you for your exceptional work and dedication throughout your years of service. Hilda Kuntu-Montoy, City of Attorney, July 19th, 2023. And we also got you some flowers, Hilda. So thank you very much.
Take a couple of brief comments. Thank you. Thank you so very much for those kind words, Arnoldo. They are reflective of the warm reception I received from day one, starting to work with the city of Madera, from you, from Alicia, the city clerk, from all the council members and staff. Everybody's been great to work with. I feel like we have clicked. And so you are the policymakers, council, and the influencers in this community for progress in the city. And yet you appreciate and understand that you work in a challenging regulatory framework for city government. You and your staff are professional and responsive to the legal constraints, even when you do not like the legal constraints. You receive the message. You may not like the message, but then you don't take it out on the messenger. And I've really appreciated that, because sometimes some members of certain city councils will be upset with the city attorney for saying you can't do that, or you have to follow a certain process before we have that meeting. So thank you for that. And staff has been the same way. They go, oh no, we have to start over. And so it's just something that needs to be done. And I always have believed that it helps the city in limiting legal challenges. And we've been very fortunate throughout my tenure that we resolved some that I inherited, and we have not received other big cases. So I'm very glad about that. So I have had the pleasure of working with many professionals in the city, like I said, with your staff. And Arnoldo has been doing a great job of bringing in new people as others leave, and finding not just the next person that's available or making it quick. He'll take hours and days and weeks and months sometimes, but he looks for the best person that fits the city of Madera. And so I really want to thank you. Governing a city is not easy, but you are up to the task. And I do want to say that my husband, who is here tonight, will miss having dinner twice a month in the city of Madera. So I wish you all the best, and thank you so much.
Take a picture.
Where are you going?
Here. Gotta take a picture with us too. Read about these events.
Can we get, yeah, I was gonna say, get Arnaldo in here.
Okay, I'll go in the middle.
Hilda, I just want to say thank you. As most of my colleagues here know, a campaign's tough, but it's when you actually get elected that the real work starts. And for me, you have always been so accessible. You've always been so flexible. And I had so many questions, and you always made sure that I understood. So I am really appreciative of that. And I just wish you the best.
I'll go next. Hilda, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart. When you came with Arnaldo, there was a lot of mess that we had in place, and you had to come clean it up, and it wasn't easy. Every door that we opened, we were pulling our hair out. We get punched in the stomach every time we went. I had 2 spaces. We went back 10. You just don't represent Madera. You represent a lot of other cities. And we do know that it's important for you to spend time with your family now and enjoy life and gardening and those grandchildren. But I'll tell you this, every member of this community thanks you for your time and effort in representing us in the way you have and making us a better and stronger city every day that you've been here. Truly appreciate.
Hilda, thank you Thank you so very much. Be blessed. Enjoy retirement, travel, do all the things that you've ever wanted to do in life. Enjoy your husband and your family and your babies. We'll miss you. Thank you for the talks and the love that you've given to each and every one of us. So be blessed. Thank you.
I'm gonna jump in and get a piece of this too. Thank you, Hilda, for everything you've done. It was when we got the news, it was like, wow, Hilda's leaving, because like what you said earlier is that it felt like, when you came in and just clicked, and it felt like it was happened right away, and it was pretty easy to talk to you and ask you for advice, and I don't think anybody ever took anything personal. I'm sure we had some wild ideas that you had to walk us back on. But we really do appreciate the advice you gave us, the manner in which you delivered it. It was really, really good for us. And you're going to have, or whoever comes in after is going to have some really big shoes to fill. And we just appreciate everything that you've done for us. Thank you. Well, I'll go next. Thank you. Hilda, the one thing that I can say that you and I do have in common is that we both love good fine pastries and coffee. And I found that out when we met you at La Boulangerie. You also love to garden, so you talk a lot about your tomatoes. So I'm still hoping that someday I get to try some of your homegrown tomatoes. The role that you play for the city has been big, not only as a role model for many young professional women looking to advance themselves, but I think in the Latino community here, you certainly you're a big role, and I think you certainly laid out a lot of the legal constraints that we face through the city, and you said it best. Yes, sometimes we don't like that, but I think having a good understanding or having a good interpretation of the legalities of how we run municipal agencies like this, you certainly made it a lot easier for us to understand. So I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. We will miss you. I know that this was going to be a short stint. We extended it longer, and obviously we hope that we'd go longer than that. But again, we understand your decision. We respect that. And we hope that we can still formulate a relationship with you in the future in some capacity. If that's a coffee and a pastry, I'm down for that. Thank you.
I go next. Okay. Hilda, thank you for all your guidance to all the city councils and so many different questions. You explained pretty well. Thank you. You're excellent journey. I learned a lot from you and keep on learning. I know you are an attorney and you are known better than us and so many different things that sometimes we don't understand. But thank you for everything you did to the city of Madera.
And you can always come back to Madera for dinner. Okay, we will now move on. We don't have a workshop tonight. We will move on to the consent calendar. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the council may request an item be removed from the consent calendar, and it will be considered separately. Are there any questions about the consent calendar? I will entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment about the consent calendar. Do we have any, Alicia?
We have none and no callers.
All right.
Move to approve consent calendar as presented.
Second.
All right. Councilmember Montes moves to approve the consent calendar as presented and seconded by Councilwoman Gallegos. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we will now move on to item C, public hearings. The first hearing is a public hearing to consider the proposed annexation of property within the Crown Tozer 2 Ivywood 2 subdivision into landscape maintenance district zone of Benefit 51 for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. And this item, who's presenting this item?
I am, ma'am.
Okay.
I will go ahead and share my screen. I'm Nicole Say. I'm the administrative analyst with the engineering department. So as we discussed, it's the public hearing to consider the annexation, or proposed annexation of property within the Crown Tozier 2, also known as the Ivywood 2 subdivision, into the Landscape Maintenance District Zone of Benefits 51 for the fiscal year 23-24. Pursuant to section 22554 of the Landscape and Lighting Act, annexation of any parcel into a zone of benefit requires both a public hearing as well as a published notice of public hearing. Public notice was posted in the July 6th edition of the Madera Tribune. The public meeting is a chance for current property owners within the zone of benefit to comment on the proposed annexation. New development within the city is subject to annexation into a landscape maintenance district. Assessments are levied to pay for each property's fair share of common shared landscaping maintenance. These properties will be assessed fees that are outlined in the next slide and are included in the engineer's report once they are granted occupancy. So for Zone 51, this subdivision, there are 63 lots currently consisting of a single parcel, but each of the 63 units will be assessed a fee of $7.40 per year. This is just a map of the proposed section second part of the subdivision. A recommendation is to hold the public hearing and receive any public comments and adopt a resolution to approve annexation 2023-07 for annexation of Ivywood 2 subdivision, tract number 21-S-01 into Zone of Benefit 51, confirming the diagram and assessment for Landscape Maintenance District Zone of Benefit 51 for fiscal year 23-24, and authorizing the city clerk to file the diagram and assessment with the Madera County Auditor. And with that, I will open it up to questions.
We have a question by Councilwoman Gallegos.
That was for Hilda.
Oh, sorry. Do we have any questions for my colleagues? We don't have any questions. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Do we have any comments or questions from the public?
We have no written public comment, Mayor Pro Tem, and no one on Zoom.
All right. And do I have a motion for my colleagues?
Motion to approve C1.
Second.
Motion to approve C1 by Councilwoman Evans, seconded by Councilman Montes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item C2, George Washington Elementary School Public Service Easement Partial Vacation. And this is presented by Will Taggett.
Actually, Robert Smith, Senior Planner. Thank you. Yes, this is the George Washington Elementary School vacation of a public use easement. The site, as you can see, lies south of East Lincoln Avenue and north of East South Street. The easement runs along the west side of the parcel down the center of the open space. The map that originally formed the 60-foot wide easement is being requested to be reduced from 60 feet to 20 feet along the central section of the easement where a storm drain currently runs underground. The environmental review for the vacation of this public use easement is exempt under section 15305, minor alterations to land, and under a number of other secret exemptions, including existing facilities, new construction or conversion of structures, and minor additions to school. The recommendation that staff are making this evening is to adopt the resolution adopting the categorical exemption 15301, 15303, 15305, 15314, and approve vacation of the portion of the public service easement between East Lincoln Avenue and East South Street. Staff is available for questions should you have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for my colleagues? We have a question by Councilman Montes.
Yeah, thank you for the presentations. I just have a really quick question. So the easement runs through the length, or I guess the height of the property, but the project area is just going to be on the periphery. It's not going to be inside of the fields because that's across the soccer fields, right?
Yeah, the project. So the project area runs within the existing school property in the open space of the school. The yellow outline is where the easement currently is. The intention of the school for reducing the size of this easement is so that they can locate a solar array in the northern portion of the area. So that will allow them to put more solar panels within the area. So it is the school's intention to take up a portion of the area with a physical structure that will be permitted through the school district. So any alterations that would be needed to play facilities or play areas in terms of sports fields would be rearranged by the school on the site.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Mayor Pro Tem, there's no written public comment and no callers on Zoom.
Okay. I will entertain a motion by my colleagues.
Move to approve item C2.
Second.
Councilman Montes moves to approve item C2, seconded by Councilman Villegas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item D1. And that is item D, petitions, bids, resolutions, ordinances, and agreements. And item D1 is procurement of fixed route amenities utilizing the remaining public transportation modernization improvement and service enhancement account program, PTMISEA. And this presentation is by Marcela Zuniga.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I am presenting on this item tonight. Let me share my screen. Okay. So this evening, I'm presenting on the procurement of fixed route amenities utilizing the remaining PTMISEA funds. The city had previously received over $2 million in PTMISEA funds, which were used to partially construct, which were to use.
I'm sorry, Marcela, it's a little difficult to hear you. Do you think you could get closer?
Oh, let me check my audio. Is this any better?
That's better.
Okay, let me start over. Okay. So the city received over $2 million in PTMISEA funds, which were used partially to fund the construction of the Madera Transit Center. Council approved allocating the remaining funds in the amount of $836,556 for other eligible capital projects within the city transit and fleet maintenance section. It was stipulated that all remaining PTMISEA funds were to be encumbered and liquidated by June 30th, 2023. However, an extension was recently granted, allowing the city to either liquidate or encumber the remaining funds by July 2023. As of June 30th, there was approximately $205,000 remaining of PTMISEA funds that could be expended or encumbered. Staff is proposing to procure solar lighting for the shelters and for the poles for the bus stops, as well as purchasing 3 transit shelters to add to the city's inventory and be placed within the city of Madera. Table 2 demonstrates the total costs. The total cost for the solar lighting is $163,455. The total bus shelter cost is $108,967. The total that staff is requesting tonight is to expend over $272,000. That does exceed the remaining PT-MISCA balance. That the difference of the PT-MISCA balance and the cost for the bus shelters and the solar lighting will be paid for utilizing previously approved SB1 funds to procure both of those items. The proposed action will have no impact on the general fund. Recommendation tonight is for council to adopt a resolution approving the purchase of bus shelters from DualGuard in the amount of $108,967.12 and solar lighting in the amount of $163,455.93 from Toller Manufacturing with PT-MISCA funds and SB1 funds. I can answer any questions.
Do I have any questions from my colleagues? No questions. Thank you, Marcela.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from the public?
We have no written public comment and we have no callers.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Pro Tem move to approve or adopt item D1.
Second.
Okay, Councilman Montes moves to adopt item D1, seconded by Councilman Villegas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item D2, contract award for the alley paving of various locations project. And this is going to be presented by Steve Betancourt.
Can everybody hear me okay? You can? Okay.
Yes.
Let me share my screen. I was having some microphone problems earlier. My name is Steve Betancourt. I'm Senior Civil Engineer with the Engineering Department. Good evening, council members. And I'm here tonight to present the contract award for alley paving at various locations and in the city of Madera. In summary, the city received a congested mitigation air quality CMAQ grant of $150,000 for paving unpaved alleys, specifically Torres Way, which we, city project number alley ALY01, the city received an additional CMAQ grant of $610,000 for alley paving for city project alley 03. The objective of the CMAQ funding for these projects is to help the city meet air district requirements for eliminating particulate matter from unpaved roads. The intent of the projects is to pave as many unpaved alleys as possible within the funding. For discussion and collaboration with Public Works, 16 unpaved alleys were selected based on available funding, having heavier vehicular traffic, and were in deteriorated condition. The general scope of work for all alleys includes 14-foot width of new permanent paving, including a concrete valley gutter and alley approaches at each end where needed. To mitigate flooding, all pavement surface water drains to the adjoining streets. 9 construction firms were directly solicited to provide construction bids in addition to posting on Planet Bids to the city's website and advertising in the Madera Tribune. And I might add, there were 18 firms that downloaded plans and specs to be used for bidding. The bids were broken down into a base bid consisting of 13 alleys and 2 alternate bids, one consisting of 1 alley and another consisting of 2 alleys. There were 2 firms that submitted bids. Whitbro, which is Seal-Right Paving and Grading, and asphalt designed by Juan Gomez. Seal-Right Paving and Grading was lowest bid of $787,214, and that was below the engineer's estimate, which was $849,145. Here's a map of where all the alleys are located. Bid alternate A was added to the project because there was some, because of the additional funds that were available. Bid alternate B was not recommended due to the lack of funds. The recommended bid award, alley 1, the bid was $208,583. Under Alley 1, Alternate 1, which was $93,577. And then Schedule B, which was Alley 3, was $578,611. The total for the contract is $880,771. For discussion, additional funds were anticipated for this project and included in the FY fiscal year 2023-24 budget. Once the budget is approved, the funds will be appropriated. There are no funds available beyond what is to be appropriated within the 23-24 budget. Therefore, the bid alternate, including Alley D 185, 186, is not included in the award recommendation. Public Works is looking into the possibility of adding alleys D 185 and 186 to their annual alley paving contract. The recommendation from staff is to adopt a resolution approving contract award for alley paving at various locations. Federal project numbers CML 5157 128, City Project AL1, AL-01, and CML 5157 122, City Project number Alley 03, in the amount of $880,791 for the base bid plus bid Schedule A add alternate to Whitbro Incorporated, doing business as Seawright Paving and Grading. Are there any questions?
We have a question from Councilman Montes.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation on some of the, or on some items worth highlighting. So when we initially sent out the bid, your first point, the bid documents state that the ultimate scope of the project, as subsequently determined by the engineering and dependent on budget, may or may not include all or any of the additive bids. So that was just a notice to them saying that we want you to bid on everything, but we may do some of it or none of it. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, the base bid is what everybody bid on that was used for comparison and for selection. The add alternates were two. There's A and B, and those could be added if funding was available, and that's how the bid documents were set up. So, because one of them, Seawright, was low bid, there was some available funds, so we added alternate A.
Okay, that clarifies, because when I first read it, it seemed like that was their message to us, but on the second read, it was like our message to them. Okay, just checking.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions for my colleagues?
Trying to get rid of screen. I had to switch my computer around. There we go. I'm not screen sharing anymore, am I?
No. Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions, comments from the public?
We have no written public comment and no one on Zoom.
Thank you, Alicia. With that, I'll entertain a motion for my colleagues.
So move to approve D2.
Second.
Councilman Steve Montes moves to approve item D2, seconded by Councilman Villegas. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. I will now move on to item D3, consider ordinance relating to city council and resolutions relating to council protocols, guidebook, and council meeting rules of procedure. And this is a presentation by City Attorney Hilda.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. We are back as a follow-up to your meeting of June 21. At that time, your city manager, Rodriguez, and I presented to you a concept called the Council Protocols Guidebook, wherein various topics and affairs of the City Council would be embedded in chapters in that guidebook. And we went through that process. You agreed that we should move forward with that concept. And so tonight, what we have before you are three items. First is the resolution adopting the guidebook. And it includes, it's a basic resolution explaining all the reasons why this guidebook is important to the city of Madera and for the operation of city government. And it does include 7 chapters. Right now, they're not part of the part of the resolution that you're adopting. They're there as placeholders, except for the code of conduct, which was previously adopted by the city council. And one of the other resolutions will be for conducting city council meetings, and that follows. And if you adopt that one, then that would be included as chapter 2. There are various other chapters. We do want to note that council can add other chapters, may combine chapters. Right now, they're just in this order because that's the way we presented them at the time. But you as a council have the last say, and you may decide that you want to move things around. You may say, well, even though Chapter 6 is council support of some or the city logo, we wanted to move up to the top. So that's really your prerogative during council deliberations at the end. When you decide what kinds of things you'd like to bring forward, that's when you could make those kinds of decisions. But basically, that's the guidebook. That's like the outline of it. And then the second resolution, I did go over that resolution in pretty much detail at the last meeting. And of course, if you want me to go through it again, or if you have specific questions, I'm here to try to answer them. And that's the council meeting rules chapter, which is by far the most detailed. And I think it will continue to be the most detailed because that's when you govern, that's when you meet, that's when you deliberate, that's when you decide things and decide whether to take action or not. And so that's really important. And there's a lot of detail in there. As I noted the last time, we went back and forth, Arnoldo and I went back and forth on deciding how many citations we should have, like, for example, to the Brown Act. And we thought that it'd be better to let everybody know what the citations are. That way, if they read it and they're not sure, they can always look up the code section on the internet. And then the third item is an ordinance for introduction, because that rules, that chapter 2 that I just mentioned, as far as under the resolution, is inconsistent with some of your provisions in your current municipal code. And even if we didn't have that chapter, you already are inconsistent. You're not in conformity with it, because over time things change. So over time, a lot of things that were in that municipal code aren't followed. I mean, it says that the city clerk, city attorney, city manager have to be at their seats promptly at 6 p.m. It says that the consent has to be the first thing that's considered on the agenda, the very first thing. Implying even before presentations, et cetera. There's a number of provisions like that that are outdated. And the one also that I mentioned and talked about last time would be the one on decorum and disruptions at city council meetings. That is a key one. And that is very detailed. It's embedded in this guidebook as part of this chapter 2, part of this resolution number 2, but it's also included in the ordinance that we have for introduction, because as I noted before, the city police chief is the sergeant of arms. And if there's a necessity to enforce, if all of a sudden you have some bad actors come in and do some bad things, and even after warnings, they are not doing what they're supposed to do, then they might be escorted out or even arrested. And so if we have it in the municipal code, it has the force of law. And so I did send it again to the police chief to make sure that he was fine with the language, and he said he was. And it would be, of course, the police chief as a sergeant at arms or his or her designee as well. And that's pretty much it. As far as what is left in the ordinance, because we took out a lot of the outdated provisions, obviously, when you have council meetings, because the Brown Act requires that, the dates, times, et cetera, in place for council meetings, that you have an agenda, your quorum, that section remains the same. The rules of decorum have been changed, as I noted. There's a language that stays. We're not changing it at all. Substantively, we're just changing the number because we're taking out some sections, and that's council salaries. We're not changing it at this time, but you probably are all aware that there's new legislation effective January 1 that provides opportunities for city to adopt increased salaries for their city councils. And I'm sure you will be discussing that further with your new city attorney. And at that time, that particular ordinance, that particular section of the municipal code would be amended. Then the remainder of the sections 07, 08, and 09 talk about the election, the districts, the enumeration of council districts. And of course, we don't want to change that. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what we have before you. And there's 3 items, the resolution approving the council's protocols guidebook, the resolution on the rules of procedure, and the ordinance repealing the current chapter and adopting a new one. And Arnoldo's here to answer any questions too.
We have a question by Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So Hilda, thank you again. I think this was a long-awaited guide, right? I think you mentioned before that through municipal code, I mean, we had very vague at times language that didn't quite give us guidance or the way of conduct, but I appreciate that. The one question that I have regarding disruptions, and only because there are times where people may come out here and they get a little loud, right? And by getting loud, there's a noise deal that you added in there. Is there an example of that? I mean, loud as in violent, or loud as in, I want to express what I feel, the frustration that I have towards the city, for example. But again, loud may not feel as threatening to me, but it may feel threatening to other of the colleagues.
Certainly. And my recommended rule of thumb is to, at the beginning, set the tone. And when you know you're going to have a big group or groups on opposing sides, or sometimes even multiple opposing sides, it's good for the mayor to set the tone and request members of the public sometimes to refrain from clapping, because it can get it takes a lot of time too. Like if every time you clap for 30 seconds after every speaker and you have 30 speakers, it adds up. So there's those kinds of things. It's kind of like a little bit of play it by ear, but you're right. I mean, it is subjective, what is noisy, but I think you have to take it in context with everything else. If that's the only thing, if they're being respectful, if they're saying thank you, doing their 3 minutes and sitting down, if they're not talking out loud, I mean, maybe let them clap. So as long as you're consistent in each meeting on your rules and how you're going to administer, that's really key. Because if you allow one group to clap really loud and then next somebody comes up and you say, please don't clap, then it looks like, favoritism or bias. So it's important to watch that.
Thank you again, Hilda. And again, let me reiterate that this is long waiting, and I appreciate that you have completed it prior to your departure and helped us with this. Really appreciate that.
We have a question by Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mejia. Hilda, on Rule 11, miscellaneous rules, it says the mayor may name shall be called last, and other members' names called numerical by district, starting with District 1. I'm not going to be here forever, but District 1 always has to vote first. Is there somewhere we can put that? And other boards have put it in place where if there's another vote during that council meeting, it's reversed.
Sure, certainly. That's something you can do tonight, that you could ask that the language be amended to allow so for some rotation. The key will be for your city clerk, and if you have a long meeting, keeping track of everything. But if you start one and then the next roll, she will start with the District 2, and the next vote she'll start with District 3. Yeah, we can make that kind of.
Or what they've done before in boards is you start with District 1, and then the next one, it just goes backwards 6, and then that way it's
That's
easier.
another way.
Whatever. It's just, I don't feel District 1 should always have to vote first.
If you want to make that, either of those options are available for you if you want to adopt this resolution with that amendment.
Okay, thank you, Hilda.
I have a question, Hilda. We have a completely blank spot for chapter 7, the flag raising. Why is that?
We haven't got to it yet.
I think there's a lot of the chapters are blank. Let's see, council participation. Let's see, did we forget to 6, 7? All of them are the same. Chapter 6 is blank. And it says council adopted participation and sponsorship policy to be inserted here in parentheses. The flag raising says council adopted flag raising policy to be inserted here. So there, again, these are going to come to you one at a time as your city manager has time. And as I noted before, you could move the order of which one comes next to you.
Oh, okay. So the process won't have to be started over as far as like asking for my colleagues to support or to be able to fill that in, like it's already part of the process.
It's part of the process of the city manager bringing to you these chapters. If you want to preempt that or move something to the top, as I said before, you could then give direction as a council, and if majority wishes to proceed that way, then you could do that.
Okay, yeah, because I was just wondering why we're adopting a resolution to adopt it if it's not completed today.
Yes, that was one of the things we really wrestled with because, and that's probably why it took us longer too, because we wanted to bring everything to you. But then we said, you know, if we don't bring, at least start bringing certain chapters to you and the concept, then it's going to take forever. So we said, let's do this. And, you know, every 2 weeks or every month or so, you know, the city manager and the new city attorney would be bringing you a new chapter. But they're all, these are the ones that we understood were your preferences based on prior meetings and direction that we'd received. And of course, there could be others.
Okay, thank you. I see no other questions from my colleagues. Do you have any questions or comments from the public?
We have no written public comment and no callers on Zoom.
Thank you, Alicia, I'm sorry. I will now entertain a motion from my colleagues.
I so move to approve D3 with the concession of moving the alternating of voting for the roll call. Either way.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Second that.
Before we go there, I'm sorry, just to be clear. So when they make that roll call, are we saying that it's up to the city clerk to make that happen or the city council?
It's if the mayor calls for a roll call.
Okay. So if the mayor calls for a roll call right now, as it is, we have items, districts 1 through 6. You're adding that, hey, just however.
The second time, if there was a roll call called, it goes 6 backwards.
Thank you.
Excuse me, a point of clarification. Councilmember Gallos, would that simply be for the same item, or on the second item, say it was a completely separate item, would on the...
It's just a second vote. If there's a second vote for anything, same item or separate item.
So on the next item, hypothetically on item C1, and there's multiple votes. However, on item C2, it's a completely different item. Would it revert back to District 1 or would it go District 2?
It would just.
And so each item would be.
Yes.
Each vote. So each subsequent vote, this is what I'm understanding. So item 1, we vote 3 times. Right. So we go 1 to 6, 6 to 1, 1 to 6. And then the next item, C2, we would go 6 to 1 again. So it would just flip-flop back and forth every vote is what I'm understanding.
Yes, that's right.
All right, we have a question.
Mayor Tim, I know you have a motion and a second on the board, but I just want to make for the clarification of that motion. So we're adding, and I'm assuming the clerk has to be aware that on every single vote for every resolution, the way we do it here is it's unanimous ayes. If
Right.
now only if there's a roll call,
Right.
then at that point, then that's when you'll take on that, right? Assuming
Yes.
we have somebody's out remotely and we have to take that call. But
Correct.
typically any other just practice that we do, past practices at this time, it's all in favor said aye.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that way it doesn't really add more to our city clerk, because then you have to remember where we're at, especially if we have remote, then you'll have to go back to 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there a language that
Hilda's going to work with
okay,
our staff.
got it.
Councilwoman Evans.
Yes. So basically what you're doing is an alternate from one question to the other. It's going to alternate back and forth. Basically.
If there's a roll call vote.
Right. Okay. Okay. Alicia, you just have to remember, huh, baby?
And we had a motion, right?
Motion and second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilwoman Gallegos and a second by Councilman Montes. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I must say no. That's a no.
Okay,
Oh, I thought you wanted to test it out right now.
okay. And so we have a no by Councilman Rodriguez. Did you get that? Okay.
Now there's your roll call.
We're good. Yes.
Okay. We will now move on to item E, administrative reports. We have none. Item E1, ceremonial documents guidelines. And this presentation is by City Manager Arnoldo Rodriguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. If I can have a second as I share my screen. The item before council this evening is it's for discussion purposes and to gather feedback or to solicit feedback from City Council regarding ceremonial documents. This would be Chapter 3 in the Protocols Guidebook. Council may recall, I believe 2 meetings ago during administrative reports, there was a motion by council to bring an item back regarding ceremonial documents. What we attempted to do is to prepare a draft document to gain feedback from council to see if staff is in the right direction. If council this evening conceptually likes the concept, this would, based on council's feedback this evening, staff would return at a future council meeting date. I'm not too sure if that's the August 2nd or the subsequent meeting for formal action. So again, kind of this item, it's not for formal action this evening, rather it's for direction. Today, the City Council issues proclamations, City Council certificates of recognition, and mayor's certificates. So council, and I'm not too sure why this is showing up. Let me shift that to the bottom. So today, the City Council primarily does 3 different forms of certificates. Under the draft, city staff is recommending or proposing 5. 2 of the 5 would require council majority vote. So again, it's not unanimous support, rather it's council majority, just like any other city action. The other 3 do not require council action or council majority action. However, it would require some form of council action by at least 1 individual council member. And I will walk through council through the various versions of that. So the table 1 that's on the overhead, which is also included in the staff report titled Table 1, are documents that require council approval by the majority vote of the City Council. So again, these items would require council. There's a lot of gray in some of these, and some of them bleed over into other areas. So for example, if you take a proclamation, proclamations could be given for civic celebrations, commemorative events, social awareness, significant community-based events. The phrase significant is obviously very subjective. Significant anniversaries of city-based institutions, and then retirement of city employees 15 or more years of service. For certificate of recognition, it's exceptional accomplishments attained by local groups, businesses, civic organizations, or individuals or groups who have made significant contributions, outstanding achievements by nonprofits and organizations, contributing to the economic development of the city. So there are a couple of nuances here. A proclamation, as the draft staff report is presented this evening, city staff would prepare an annual list that would come before council either in December or January. We have not selected a date. That's largely the prerogative of the council. We can bring that kind of list whenever council would like. That's not to say that you cannot add them throughout the year. However, if council did want to add a proclamation that was not on the list, it would come before council during administrative reports. A council member would ask to bring it back. We would agendize it for a future meeting. Council would vote, and then you probably have a subsequent meeting to present it. So it would be I suspect a relatively lengthy process. The alternative to that is you can also do a certificate of recognition, which would be under the same item. The difference here is the proclamation. There would be an approved annual list, and under the certificate of recognition, council can always bring that back at a meeting. However, council can also bring back a proclamation. The next two slides would shows the list of annual proclamations for the current calendar year. Those listed in red would be new dates. Again, these are not set in stone. However, staff was attempting to come up with different days that are currently recognized and potential dates that we think would be a good idea to recognize for various reasons. So in January, we currently do human trafficking awareness. On the right-hand side, you see the recipient. There are a couple where we listed recipient at the discretion of the council. Currently in the guidelines, there's no clear definition of what that means. And we can decide that at this evening, at the next one, or at some future day, but that's going to be council's direction. National Mentoring Month, National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day would be a new one. Black History Month, Red Cross Sexual Awareness, Firefighters Day, Public Service Week, Public Works Week, CASA Awareness Month, Relay for Life, Letter Carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. And again, the red here identifies potentially new dates that are currently not recognized by the city. Well, not necessarily recognized, but there's not a proclamation. For the second half of the year, in June would be Pride Month, Juneteenth Day. July, we currently do not have any. August, National Seniors Day. September, Old Timers Week. October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Disability Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. November would be Small Business Saturday. And then December, there are currently none. So again, at council's discretion, we can add dates, remove dates, and this would generally be done at the beginning of the year or at the tail end of one year for the upcoming calendar year. Table 2 are documents that do not require council approval by a majority of the city council. We have certificate of commendation, certificate of appreciation, and a congratulatory certificate. So starting from the left and moving to the right, I'm going to go acts of heroism, academic and athletic scholarship, youth development, Boy Scouts comes to mind, nonprofit organizations, and outgoing city commissioners or committee members. Certificate of appreciation for significant, again, somewhat subjective, monetary donations, in-kind contributions, cultural contribution, volunteer efforts. Then we have congratulatory certificate, milestone birthdays, groundbreaking ceremonies, ribbon cutting, and grand opening ceremonies. So the next two slides is going to break down who approves them and the process. So the slide here are numbers 1 and 2, which are proclamations and certificates of recognition. They're largely identical, with the nuance being that under, slide that over, the approval process under proclamations, there would be an annual list. That's the key thing here. The other thing that is cited, that's included in the draft guidelines, is that an individual council member always has the option of being omitted from signing one of the proclamations. So one item under both proclamations and certificates of recognition, every council member would be signing every document. And so that's obviously going to take coordination between council members and the city clerk's office. It's going to add a little bit of time. However, it would also provide council an opportunity to sign it. One of the nuances here is there is some timeline stipulated where a council member wouldn't have to notify the city clerk in advance if they're going to be omitted, so we can print it and have the remaining council members sign. And there are timelines included in the packet, simply to ensure again that there's an equitable process in case an individual council member did not feel comfortable signing a proclamation or a certificate of recognition. The next three are items that, again, do not require council majority. So these items will not come to city council. I apologize. Let me go back. Both under proclamations and certificate of recognitions, both of these items would be presented here before a council meeting. Again, this is draft. This is for feedback. Whereas the others, you could present either at a city council meeting or at another event. And another event could be anything. However, again, under this scenario, both proclamations and certificate of recognitions could only be presented here at a city council meeting, where it's a more formal process. The remaining three, those could either be the mayor or an individual council member can approve. They do not require council majority. The mayor or the council member could sign. It could be presented here at a city council meeting or another event, and the approval process could be an individual mayor or council member. So in terms of how this would work, hypothetically, if an individual were to contact the city clerk would approach the mayor, and the mayor would sign the certificate if it fell under one of the definitions. And again, the definitions, they're fairly narrow, but that's again simply to provide clarity for both the community and the council, and to establish some kind of guardrails in terms of what can be recognized. The mayor at that point could sign it. They would notify the city clerk. The city clerk would notify the council members that we would have 5 days, and individual council member would have the discretion of signing that certificate. But the mayor would do the presentation. In the alternative, if an individual in the community were to approach an individual council member, that council member would sign it. Again, it's their prerogative, and that's the council member that would do the presentation, either here or at a community meeting. And the same thing would apply, that every individual council member would be given an opportunity to sign either their certificate of commendation, their certificate of appreciation, or the congratulatory certificate. So one thing we attempted to do was clarify who has authority to sign it, and the timeline for that, and then who would present it. And so those are things that we attempted to clarify in this document. It makes sense in my head. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it very well, but and so again, so documents are not requiring council action. And this summarizes what I said, probably a bit more eloquently. Certificates requested by the public will be signed by the mayor. Certificates requested by a council member will be signed by the member making the request. When a certificate of commendation, and I apologize, I should say any certificate under items not requiring council action, the city clerk will advise all council members of the nature and the intent. Council members will have 5 business days to be added to the signature block. And those certificates could be presented at a council meeting or an offsite event, or even at person here at City Hall.
We have a question by Councilman Montes.
I don't know if you're going to get to this portion of it, but you're saying you have the definitions of this, and they're pretty narrowly defined. If there is a situation where there is a disagreement on if something falls within one of these categories, who ultimately has the decision-making responsibility? Like, say a community member says, I think that I should get a certificate of commendation, and we're saying no, somebody says no, you don't, right? I'm assuming it's a staff member, and there's a discrepancy with that. I mean, just kind of thinking that's what we have attorneys, two attorneys.
I should recall that I wrote it last week, and if memory serves me, it states that the city manager would have the discretion. However, I'd probably bring that before the council. Yeah. I think that would probably be the most appropriate thing.
Yeah.
The other way is just like, there are often items that are brought that the people want to be placed on the agenda, just items. And again, and staff may say, we don't want to present that. And that person can come before council, make his or her pitch before the city council, and then the city council can listen and say thank you. Or one of you might say, we'd like to go ahead and see if there's concurrence to add this on.
Yeah, okay, so then it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be a formal process. They could just come to public comment and say, hey, I want this, and then at that point, the council decides.
Can that make sense? But let me go to the bullpen. It looks like Alicia pulled up the document. Was I correct in saying that, Alicia?
Correct. I believe part of our discussion that we had was, and it's outlined, I believe it's in section E of the attachment, and it says the city manager or city clerk may also reject the request on the grounds that the criteria are not satisfied. Staff will prepare an informational report to the city council advising of any rejected request and the reason for the rejection. Recognition requests not consistent with the categories outlined in this document may be agendized for consideration by the city council upon direction to do so from a majority of the council at a council meeting under council member communications. Approval by a majority vote of the city council is required for issuance of such recognition. So if it's rejected, then we would bring it as an informational report to council. So council will be in the loop.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Hilda, I think you can, and maybe Shannon can appreciate that you guys are attorneys, and with words, they can be interpreted in many different ways. But when I look at recognition, I'm also looking at commending, appreciating, and congratulating that individual. So if they come back, kind of to Councilmember Montes's point, to argue that, hey, mine seems to fall into one of those organizations and or exceptional accomplishments for recognition. I would rather have a recognition than a commendation or appreciation. How are you saying that the way we would tackle that is that Lisa or Ronaldo would have first dibs at it and look at it to see if it falls under one of these categories? And then if that doesn't fall into recognition, they say, let's do it a congratulatory certificate. I mean, that it's just in the past practice, what I've seen is that, it's never been an issue, but more recently, I think it's become, whether or not we want to recognize, proclamate, appreciate, congratulate, or commend someone. And all those words kind of like interchangeable in a way, it's kind of hard to dictate which is which. And if someone's out there in the public saying, well, wait a minute, that word also means this. Or I believe I fall into one of these categories, just to protect the city from any, like, I don't want to say discriminatory practices or anything like that, or maybe, hey, you're not treating me fairly in recognizing me in that fashion. I mean, I don't think that have you encountered that, Hilda, by the way? I'm sorry. I mean, maybe this is a lot more than what we anticipated, but just because now we have it in law, we're having it in some type of policy.
I have never seen anyone since 1982 come before the city council and say, I should have been honored. I should have been appreciated. I should have been proclaimed, as you said, or somebody else should have. I mean, I just have never seen that. Maybe here in Madera, the city clerk has, but, sometimes things come up, and generally the city clerk and city manager will discuss it with maybe the mayor and just see if it's something to move forward or not.
I'm sure it's going to be one of those four, right? It's all, or maybe, recognize, commend them, appreciate them, and or congratulate them.
I think most people, once they're told, they're not going to quibble about which word you use.
Perfect. I think it's just a process of how it's done, because part of it with the recognition requires our vote here, right? If I heard you correctly. And then the other three are just staff can certainly take on that.
So a proclamation and a certificate of recognition would come before the council, and those could only be presented at council. Whereas a certificate of commendation, certificate of appreciation, and congratulatory certificate could be signed by one council member, but all 7 council members are going to be given an opportunity to sign it. And those can be presented here at city council at another event. But those are the ones that I think are a little bit more narrowly defined. If you take a look at can the overhead, for example, if someone says that I have a milestone birthday, but I want a certificate of commendation. If we look at the table, it's like, well, no, you get a congratulatory certificate. But there is some bleed over. So, for example, if you take a look at nonprofit organizations for significant accomplishment, someone can easily say, well, that can also be a certificate of appreciation because they were volunteers. And so there is a little bit of gray, but those are going to be some nuances. Going back to something that city council, kind of our legal counsel said, I'm not too sure if people will split hairs, but we never know.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure staff, I trust that staff will make the right decision in looking at these, all these categories and be able to place them in the correct category so that, it doesn't come to us to happily say, hey, you know what, this falls into this and therefore there's a 4-3 vote and I'm sorry, you can't get recognized. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
Right.
But I think to attorney's point, I think generally they come from us. It's not really that someone's just going to come and show up and say, I want a certificate. Doggone it. Generally, right?
And it also behooves the city council members when they're approached to say, oh, well, this is a process, or sorry, but that's not something that the city does.
I think that people, I'm sorry, were you raising your hand?
I don't have a button, so I'm trying to raise my hand over here. But just to piggyback off of what Councilmember Montes said, I was going to mention that 98% of our requests for certificates of any kind that we're speaking of tonight come from council. So as Hilda mentioned, they usually come from council. And I think this allows staff and council to be on the same page when we're looking at that recognition. So it's not a document to say, nope, not you. Nope, not you. It's more of a document for all of us to be on the same page when we're looking at because I do get those questions. I'll be approached by any member of the council and they'll ask, well, can we have a certificate for this or for that? And we're now going to have this document to reference to rather than me saying yes to everybody.
And that's why I requested the recognition before we adopted this process.
Going back to our conversation last week, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Councilwoman Evans.
Oh, it's okay. I'm good.
Okay. I see no other questions, comments.
So that's it for staff's presentation. But again, the principal purpose for tonight's presentation was a workshop to gain feedback from the council. If we're in the right direction, if council has any constructive feedback on the document, if you'd like to see anything different, and then what we would do is we would incorporate council's direction this evening, and we would bring this back either at the following meeting, which is August the 2nd, or the subsequent meeting after that, depending on the amount of feedback and the type of feedback. If it requires wholesale changes, then we'll have to go back and kind of take a look at it. However, we attempted to do a lot of research, and we struggled with this, and we had a lot of meetings because there's so many different avenues to go down, and we tried making it as clear as we can, knowing that there are some areas that they bleed over into one another.
Okay. Thank you. So there's no.
So just direction, right? So for me, I think you're on the right tracks. Forward to seeing the actual document, and then we can have this conversation all over again.
Do we need a motion? Are we okay?
No.
Okay,
I think
good.
just a simply kind of direction. We're good, right, Hilda?
Yeah.
I just like to thank you for your hard work. This took a long time to come up with this graphs and charts and meeting with individual staff members. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. We will now move on to item E2, direction regarding City Council Member Golf Course Advisory Committee appointment. And this presentation is by Gabriela Salazar.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, council members of the public. Again, my name is Gabby Salazar. I'm the administrative analyst for the Parks and Community Services Department, presenting this item for you all tonight. So on June 21st, 2023, last month, staff took the 9th Amendment to the Madera Municipal Golf Course Operation Management Lease Agreement with SGM Inc. to council. The 9th Amendment extended the term of the lease agreement with SGM to 5 additional years. The amendment also made various economic modifications, and one new term included the formation of a golf course advisory committee. This is to be a 7-member body with 1 member from City Council. And the 7-member body to consist of the following members: 1 City Council member, our Parks and Community Services Director, 1 SGM Inc. representative, a service organization representative, a golfer / at-large community member, a food and beverage director / representative, and a non-golfer / at-large community member. The non-golfer / at-large community member was an addition from the June 21st council meeting after council recommendation. And upon council suggestion and approval, the final committee appointments is to be mutually agreed upon by both the city and SGM Inc. And then the city and SGM Inc. are working to finalize the remaining committee representatives and will present the recommendations to council in the upcoming council meeting. There is no anticipated financial impact for a council appointment to the Golf Course Advisory Committee, as committee members will not be compensated. And the recommendation today is to adopt a resolution approving an appointment of a council member to the Golf Course Advisory Committee. So at this point, what staff is asking for is direction regarding the selection and appointment of a council member to the committee.
Thank you. Gabriela, we have a question from Councilwoman Evans.
No. I just wanted to make a recommendation.
Oh, a recommendation.
I recommend Councilmember Jose Rodriguez.
Well, if you're recommending me, I'm not sure if there's anyone that's wanting to second that. I would greatly appreciate that. I'm not sure if anyone else here would like to seat in that position, because I certainly would I would put myself back only because I am in the industry. I that's one of the passions that I have. But
right.
Again, if someone else feels that they can fill that void and help with that, that'd be great. I'd be willing to concede my recommendation.
I will second
Very
Kevin's recommendation.
I'd be honored. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. You have to do a motion. Oh, okay. So is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay. And second.
I am.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilwoman Evans recommending that Councilmember Rodriguez be the appointment by the council for this advisory committee, and a second by Councilman Montes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. We have our appointment.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Evans, Councilmember Montes, and
You would not want me
all of
on
the city
that
council.
committee.
Thank you.
All right. And we will now move on to item E3, informational report on the implementation of the Madera Transit Plan. And this presentation is by Marcela Zuniga.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Let me share my screen. Okay. This item is an informational report on the implementation of the Madera Transit Plan. The revised fixed route system resulted in an increase in routes, new route names, and new route identifiers. An additional route was added to our fixed route system. Adding this fixed route promotes equitable access and may increase ridership throughout city limits. Route names were changed. The shift to multiple modes of route identification is intended to target individuals with different capacities, thus promoting inclusion. New bus stop identifier signs include color, route number, and shape. To date, staff has finalized the following. A new Madera Metro Transit brochure has been developed. Individual route maps have been developed, as well as an all systems map. A new bus stop identification sign was developed, and staff has procured new bus stop equipment. So all of these maps and attachments, they were included in the staff report for reference, but this is an example of what our all systems map looks like. If you notice the tabs here, well, these will be tabs on our website. So users will be able to go on the Madera Metro website and click on each individual tab, and the corresponding map will pop up for the user. So this is the all systems map, and it identifies all of the different routes. As we can see, it's, for example, Purple Line, Route 1, and it is identified by a square. And we can see all the subsequent, the 3 subsequent routes that are also identified by color, by route number, and by shape. This is an excerpt from what the brochure will look like. The brochure, it will be one brochure that will be in English and Spanish. It will include the route schedules for all 4 routes. So it's been a pretty cumbersome process to put all of the route information in one brochure. But our consultant has managed to do so. This is what will be basically the cover page. This brochure is going to be, it will fold down to pocket size. So when the user opens it up, the middle page will have the additional routes that we don't see here. So the orange and the blue route, those are the larger routes. And this will also will be found on the Madera Metro website, as well as at bus shelter locations. This is an example, or the first, we can see here, these are the new bus stop ID signs. So once these are up and at the stops, we will put a number here in this blank space, and it's a number. And so if anybody calls in, they can tell dispatch, oh, I'm at bus stop number 100 or whatever it may be. We can see that we tried not only to color code it, but we have additional the dotted line, for example, kind of helps the riders or simply members of the community identify the sign from a greater distance. And this is Purple Line Route 1, identified by the square. And here we see the orange Route 2, Route 3, and the 4th. This is the new addition, the blue line Route 4. The new fixed routes were anticipated to go into service July 1. However, we did experience some supply delays. The new signs that I just showed, they are taking longer than we anticipated to arrive. They are anticipated to arrive within the next couple of weeks, towards the latter part of July. When we do arrive them, then we are able to transition and move stop locations, put the poles up, install the signs, and prepare the community to transition to these new routes. Staff will begin finalizing the transition by providing public notice. Public notice will be placed at bus stops. Both it'll include bus stops that are going to be closed as of a certain date, and then bus stops that will be new as of a certain date. So again, we will be removing bus stops, we will be relocating bus stops, and we will be installing new bus stop identification signs. In the near future, we will begin the process of relocating bus shelters to new bus stops and or bus stops that currently only have a pole, but we will be replacing that pole or adding to that pole, adding a shelter to that pole. The goal is for every bus stop in the community to have some type of seating, be it a semi-seat, which is literally just a seat adhered to the pole, or an actual shelter. That concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions council may have.
Marcela, I have a question. The brochure on slide 5, is that already printed and finalized?
It is not printed. It is near finalization, but it is not printed as of yet.
Okay. I saw some things I'd like to correct them. So
yeah. Absolutely. If you're welcome to email them to me directly, or if you'd like to email them to Arnaldo or Mike, either one of us will be happy to receive those. And of course, if any other council member has any other additions or comments that they would like for us to include, we are still in that process.
Thank you, Marcela. And also, I just like to add that I'm very appreciative of that being bilingual, being more accessible to more members in our community. And I see no question. No. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's good.
I see no other questions or comments from my colleagues. Do we have any questions or comments from the public?
We have no written public comment and no callers on Zoom.
Okay. And so there's no action that's requested. We will now move on to item F, council member reports, announcements, future agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for the mayor and council members to make brief reports on boards, committees, and other public agencies and at public events, to request updates, to initiate future agenda items, and to take action on matters initiated under this section of the agenda. Under this section, the council may take action only on items specifically agendized and which meet other requirements for action. We'll start with Councilwoman Evans.
Oh, okay. That's not used to that. Okay. I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thanks for all of the work, Hilda. You'll be missed. Congratulations on your retirement. Also today, they had the Casa mural, and it was the Hope mural, and I did the presentation in honor of the Casa for Fresno and for the city of Madera. And the mural is absolutely gorgeous. So for those of you that have not seen it, it's over off of C Street in the alleyway there. And it was a nice event. So thank you for that, for the young man that did participate and created it. And that'll do it for me. God bless everyone and go home safely tonight.
Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mejia. I'm just going to chime on the Casa mural. Madera Unified, the Arts Authority, and the city have been working really hard to clean up downtown. And this was one of two of the murals that they're working on. So more to come. Keep your eyes open when it starts to go up. It is a great thing to have that come from people in our community that really represent things that we really like hope is important to us. And CASA is our court-appointed special advocates who are now going to be located in the new DA office, which means they'll have an office here in Madera, which is exciting for us. 4th of July, I just want to do a shout out to Fire and PD. Heard a lot of fire engines during that night. I would like to thank the police officers that took that day to work and not be with their families on that celebration day. And Public Works and the parks, if everybody in our community can have some more patience. There are weeds everywhere because of all the water that we've received. And we're getting to those weeds that are on the islands or on the cracks of cement where you don't think grass would grow, it's growing. So thank you for all your help and keep up the good work. And that's all, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Councilman Montes.
Thank you, Hilda. I'm going to miss you again. And that's all I have to report.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I too wanted to say thank you, Hilda, for all of your hard work. I wanted to shout out for, again, the 4th of July. I know it's still a war zone. I hope that at some point this council would come together to at least revisit some of the ordinances that we have with respect to, the tolerance of this. A lot of the neighbors do complain. I don't think it's only Madera. I think it's around. Everybody that I talk to certainly expresses their concerns regarding the days leading up to the 4th of July and the days after the 4th of July. I think when we came and we had consensus about formulating this event at the district fair was to try to take away from these illegal fireworks going off. And I know with lean staff at PD, sometimes it's hard, but I think that if we can give them some tools to be able to enforce it, maybe citations, we talked about increasing the fines for certain abatements. I don't see how this wouldn't also work. I hate to give fines, but I mean, at the same time, it can get out of control pretty quick. And if we don't tackle it early on, then the city of Madera becomes another war zone on days leading up to the 4th of July. That being said, thank you again, PD showed up there. Your presence was certainly welcome there. And I think the whole city appreciates that. On Monday, I had the opportunity to walk downtown. There was an idea that was pitched. I will, full disclosure, I met with former council member Oliver, had pitched an idea regarding a video that Fresno has already launched in regards to their downtown. And the model of how they're utilizing this is really just a visual of what Fresno is doing with respects to their downtown. They're erecting 3D models, right, of these specific, whether it be multi-units, certain buildings and what have you. But a picture is worth 1,000 words is what they say, right? I mean, nowadays, you know, we look at social media and we look at we're always constantly on our phones looking at certain videos and or pictures. I know that we have the resources and I know that we have the ability to do the same thing, if not better, to showcase not only downtown, but to showcase Madera. I know we have our EDC that's part of their mission is to go out there and showcase, but I also believe that we here at the city can certainly do that. So hopefully with the council's blessing is that we may be able to start conversations, if not with our media department, maybe Arnoldo, you can select some folks that may want to consider showcasing this downtown project, what it would look like, what it can look like. And we do have a presentation or we have a meeting coming from the California Transportation Commission in October. So happens that it lands on my birthday, October 18th. But it'll be great to showcase to them and, you know, looking for additional funds. I know that we've been unsuccessful with 2 of the grants already helping us down there with the reconnecting, the raise, but I don't think we should give up. I think now, based on what we heard from our Caltrans director, Mike Navarro, he said that there's a lag now with the timing of the project that we may be able to find additional funds to supplement, not necessarily the project, but so that we're not having to dip into our coffers, reimburse ourselves back. So that it's not a big expense for the city. The one thing that I did notice walking downtown, I think, you know, DJ, I highlighted some of the weeds that are going out there and I did see trash. So that's one thing that I wanted to see if the city, what's the city's policy with respects to the downtown association? Is there a correlation there as far as how these merchants operate? What can we do as a city to show, on our end, show what we can do as a city with respect to like the alleys, for example. I did get an opportunity to walk to some of them. I did see the weeds excessively growing in some of these empty lots. I mean, maybe that's something with abatement, but even in city streets and stuff like that, I think we can do a better job to show that, hey, if we're going to do this and we expect you as partners to do this, then I think it's important for us to also be the example. That we want you to be good merchants and we're going to provide you and hopefully here's the example of what we'd like you to see. But on the other end, you two need to have commitment in keeping up your business and or, you know, I mean, just, you know, if you go down there and you walk it, and I don't do it regularly, but, you know, this one time, you know, it just, I can see why a lot of folks complain about it. But it's a thriving community down there. And I would and be happy to be part of something if there's anything that we can do. So that was just another suggestion that I bring up. So hopefully the council can amend to maybe putting something together. If this falls into one of your districts, be more than happy for you to be part of that. And let's work together. Let's work with our downtown association. And that's pretty much it. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Council Member Villegas.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mejia. Just want to say it's a lot of different projects and art authorities that coming up. So we are expecting those in a few months. So I hope so we can just keep on in the beautification of the city. And that's one good thing that coming up. So also I just wanted to say that thank you to Hilda. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for guide the city of Madera. Thank you for all those good advice you give to us. So thank you. And I wish you a good luck to you, whatever you do. That's my report.
Thank you. I would like to say just again, thank you for all those who put on the 4th of July Spectacular. It was a very wonderful event that I'm sure a lot of us in the community enjoyed. I had the opportunity to join Pequeños Empresarios, a nonprofit here in Madera, with the graduation of those who were part of their empowerment workshop. And I got to hear the testimonials from more than a dozen adults who spoke about how this workshop made an impact on their lives. It was very wonderful to hear, and I know that their efforts are ongoing. They are fundraising to, again, put this type of workshop on. And I see the importance of having these things available to everyone in our community, especially adults, parents raising children. So congratulations to them. Also, there is a group of local residents who are all volunteers who are now working on putting on the first Guelaguetza in Madera. Guelaguetza is a cultural event that is actually happening right now in the month of July in Oaxaca. As many of you know, a lot of people that are living in Madera are indigenous from the state of Oaxaca. And what they're trying to do is bring this to Madera because unfortunately and ironically, there are a lot of people that are not able to be a part of that celebration that is renowned, that it's known worldwide and it draws a lot of tourists. So congratulations to this group of folks that are doing the fundraising and that are going to have this event happen in Madera on Sunday, October 8th. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Ismael Hernandez, our Public Works Operations Director, and his team. Thank you very much. I brought to your attention this week that we had missing receptacles that were quickly piling up trash, and overnight you got that fixed. I think that a lot of us that care about our community, care about Madera, we're always watching to see how we can make it better. And I just really appreciate the work our public works staff, because they got to that right away. Love Madera isn't a once a year event. It's an everyday thing. It's willing to get your hands dirty, and just also appreciating our staff that even though they're running on a skeleton crew, they're still doing the best that they can to address these issues in our city. So with that, that's my report. And Hilda, can you please take us into closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have 3 items on closed session. 1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation under Government Code 54956.9A, Madera POA, Randall Williams and Thomas Burns versus City of Madera, as well as under that same category, Finos of Madera versus Inc., doing business as Finos of Madera, cannabis appeal before hearing officer. And the next item is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation under Government Code 54956.9D4, deciding whether to initiate litigation.
on today.
It says we're muted. Okay. We are. Oh. Oh. Okay. We are back from closed session. Hilda.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The City Council met in closed session to hear all the items on the agenda. Mayor Santos was absent. There is no reportable action.
Thank you. I now adjourn this meeting at 9:05 p.m. Next meeting dates are August 2nd and August 16th. Thank you.
Good job, Elsa.